Ah, there it is. Welcome to Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. That's what we do here. It's a Saturday, Johnny and Jacob, man. We are really ready to go. Glad to see both of you here on a Saturday. Hey, a little secret to everybody out there listening. We record this show, so we know it's not really Saturday, but we want to make sure that everybody listening though knows that
We
we're
pretend
aware.
it is. I mean, we really embrace that it's Saturday,
It makes
even though
us
it's
yeah,
a
it makes
few
us
days
feel
before.
like it's Saturday before it's really Saturday. So anyway, welcome everybody listening out there on the Civic Media app, anybody driving anywhere in Wisconsin. We know that you can get Busted Pencils, all the Civic Media shows across every one of those stations. Man, Civic Media just continues to cover the entire state of Wisconsin with more acquisitions of more radio stations. I mean, wow, think about it. Just putting it out there, making sure that everybody knows there is not a place right now, at least according to the coverage map, that there's not any place right now in Wisconsin where the signal is unavailable. You can get Civic Media, Johnny, everywhere.
Well, Tim, if that's not local radio refreshed, I don't know what is. And that's not even a line they gave me to say. But in addition to that, Tim, people can always get the Civic Media app and you can listen from anywhere. And Tim, I bring that up because you had a long-standing joke that was actually true, but you carried it out dad style for a while, where it was our friends in Finland. Well, I met with our friends in Finland this week, and they said, "Hey, we're still listening to Busted Pencils. We love that app because we can just tune in and check out what you guys are up to in Wisconsin."
Well,
That joke still lives on, Tim. That
what
even in Finland,
is it a joke though? Come on, we know you're actually hearing from them. They are listening in Finland. We know that. My goodness, because hey, guess what? One of the things about Finland, they love doing public education right. And I gotta say, there's a connection there between Busted Pencils and Finland. Maybe one day a live broadcast from Helsinki or something, Johnny.
actually, Tim, that's something we were talking about. So, so funny you should tease that a little bit. We'll have a little bit more to talk about, with Jacob, chairman of the boards over there. We'll be talking with him about it and our friends at Civic Media. But yeah, they want to set something up and maybe we might be heading over to Finland.
Nice, nice. I love
So
it. Well,
yeah.
Johnny, we've got a great guest for our
Oh, do
show.
we ever?
It's a return guest. You were, not there for that show, but so this is your introduction
Yeah.
to our great guest. We're gonna welcome back to Busted Pencils, Britni Walz. We're thrilled to have her today. She is the Instructional Service and Educational Technology Director at CISA 4. She's been at the forefront of integrating AI into rural Wisconsin classrooms. Fresh Johnny from the ASU plus GSV Summit, the premier gathering of educators, innovators, and tech leaders. She's here to share insights on how the summit's discussions and discoveries will influence her work right there in Wisconsin, from AI literacy to equitable access. We're going to get into how cutting edge ideas from the summit can be translated into meaningful change for rural educators and students. Welcome back, Brittany Waltz. How are you, Brittany?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Well, you were it's such a great guest talking about AI. And again, wanting to really stay true to the Wisconsin coverage area of civic media and looking at that. I mean, you're doing great work, and we want to continue to feature that incredible work that goes on in Wisconsin schools, and in particular the rural Wisconsin schools, because so often we don't spend nearly the time and effort talking about rural education and the things that are going on, and especially, Brittany, what you're doing with that work. Okay, ASU GSV Summit, Primer 101. What the heck is it?
Yeah. So it's the global Silicon Valley. So what does GSV actually mean, right? Like
Okay.
we throw acronyms all the time in education, right? So GSV is the global Silicon Valley, and ASU is obviously Arizona State University. They partner for a innovative kind of meeting of like the minds and all these tech gurus, education gurus, and higher education. So they call it K to Gray, just in terms of what their offerings are for. There's not only the show, which is a free version. It's kind of more like a space for more of the innovators, a lot of the startups. And then they offer the summit, which is a larger, kind of more like the high end scale, to really showcase what AI is up and coming and how we need to approach AI in that K to gray space.
Mm. Johnny Lupinacci, how come you weren't invited?
I don't know, Tim. I mean, I must have missed. I'm bad at checking my mail. It's
Okay.
probably an
Okay.
invite in there. No, no, outside of our wheelhouses, Tim. But this is exactly why we're having this kind of conversation, and why it's exciting to have Brittany on. Loved last time you were on, Brittany. Got to listen to that, that podcast, and listeners really liked it too. In the mailbag, all the comments about it's really great to hear these conversations around ed technology, around technology in Wisconsin schools, rural access stuff. And Tim and I have teased this, but we bicker quite a bit about AI, and I've come a long way. Tim was a little bit of a more early adopter than I was, but I've come a long way, and it still continues to be a really, I think important, and sometimes tense conversation for educators. So again, like I love this conversation because what do we need to do? Talk about it. We need to figure out, okay, so how is it being used? What are the great ways that it helps education be even better for all of our students, and teaching even better for all of our teachers? And I believe that has that potential there. There's no single technology that like changes everything, but this is one of those technologies I feel like could really transform education in some amazing ways. I mean, every technology has the possibility of, being misused. But by and large, the teachers I've worked with who are adopting this and are part of conversations like the wonderful conference that, Brittany was at, and the kind of work that we're going to dive into today. I mean, they're they're seeing amazing things happen, and I couldn't be more happy for the children in those classrooms. So Tim, that's what I mean. Again, outside of our wheelhouses, I mean, a couple of old guys here, but we teach teachers, and they're talking about this all the time in our classes, and we're learning with them. And so that's always an exciting thing too, when teachers are learning with other teachers together about how their students learn. Whew, we're all learning. So this is really important stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brittany, so you were there, um, you were invited.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I
unlike Johnny and Tim who weren't.
Come on, Tim.
No, no, I mean, what? I mean, tell us about your access. The work. Why did Brittany Walz get to attend such an awesome summit?
Yeah, I was very I mean, like you too, I was like, what is this, acronym based like Summit, ASU, GVC? I was lucky enough, it was honored to be nominated as a AI K-12 innovator for this year, and lucky enough to be accepted. I did not nominate myself, let's be real here, let's say that. But no, I was lucky enough to get nominated by one of the leaders in some tech spaces, and just got to get out there, got to get in front of a lot of people. And that was really incredible to see. I think overall attendance was over 13,000.
Wow.
So just being able to have conversations and really listen to some of the people that are leading this work, I think was hugely impactful.
Yeah, and so you just to refresh listeners who are return, back from saying, "Well, I want to hear what Brittany's saying again." The connection, though, too, that you had is that you have done some work up there with the Comingo Khan Academy, and in fact, another person we had on the show, Jason Feig, from the Khan Academy. I mean, is that kind of your entry point, maybe then for this?
Yeah, I mean, There's so many. I always tell my educators and principals and superintendents that I work with, it's not about the platform itself.
Mhm.
So Conmigo, I used to say con amigo, like friend, right? But
Right.
apparently Conmigo means together. So I loved what they were doing with Khan Academy. They were one of the first AI ed tech spaces or apps to incorporate that personalized tutoring, but that had safeguards in place that we really take at the heart of what and how we're putting out AI. I'm a firm believer in using the Student Data Privacy Consortium,
Mm.
so really making sure these apps are protecting our students' data. They're not using it. They're not training models, and so Khan Academy was one of the first ed tech companies to incorporate that AI personal tutoring. Now you walk through the GSV summit and show, and it's like booth after booth after booth. And so that's really where we started. But like I tell everyone, it's not about the platform,
Mm.
it's about the power and how we're leveraging it to dig in deeper, to have conversations about truly innovating education, not just public, but private, charter, right? But my main focus is obviously rural public schools.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's why we want to talk, a lot about this is because I again, it's one of those things. It's trendy, it's technology, and people I think have this assumption that, well, if I live in a rural area and my schools, well, we're not doing that crazy, goofy stuff. But the reality is like actually, Brittany, I would probably put you as not just a rural AI leader, that you're a leader in education with really bringing AI, yes, to a rural area, but the work you're doing is truly, as you got nominated as an innovator in education. Our guest, yeah, it's Brittany Walz. She coming to us from CISA 4 in Wisconsin, talking about that amazing conference, ASU, the GSV. You know, it's where all the awesome, cool people hang out. When we get back, though, gonna ask a little bit more specifically, Brittany, what were you there talking about? And then what should we be wondering about? And what are you excited about? It's Busted Pencils. More when we get back. Welcome back to Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators talking education. As Johnny likes to say, to blue collar scholars, doing the work. Jacob, chairman of the boards here, producer, joining us with return guest Brittany Waltz, instructional services, educational technology director at CISA 4. Talking to Brittany, she was an AI innovator nomination and actually then awarded the opportunity to head to the ASU plus GSV summit, which is a mega conference that is really putting together educators, innovators, AI technology, all of the things that are, about, or actually in a lot of places are already happening. In fact, Brittany, so in the nomination, I mean, so what did you talk about when you were there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, why was
Okay.
I nominated, right? Like, no, it was just for some of the work that we're doing within some of our rural districts. So we started a pilot program that we are calling Liftoffs, and within that Liftoffs model, we're really looking at how can we leverage AI not to replace teachers, because I think that is sometimes a rhetoric or a narrative, right? That we hear like AI is going to replace my job, and it really, like, I know that is a fear in some industries,
Mhm.
but really how can we leverage AI to strengthen the work of the teacher, and in this case really thinking about how can AI be used for personalized learning. So looking at different platforms, different curricular sources that integrate AI, and especially that tutoring piece to remove the ceiling, remove the floor for kids, and just let them go. Let them have like the educational experience of, I'm bad at fractions, so I need additional practice on fractions. Whereas the kid sitting next to me is already on to division or decimals. So I think like for the first time, we have this technology and this capability that allows students to receive not only a personalized pathway approach to education, but then it also frees up that teacher to say, now instead of lecturing at you for 60 minutes about fractions, now I can actually put you on a path of your own ability. And then
Mm.
I can spend time providing, those reteachings for kids that may need it. I can push kids that may need more like application of math or whatever the content that you're looking at. So I think for the first time we have this powerful technology that can give teachers superpowers to do things
Mm.
like, that I'm sure Tim, like in your ed classes, you're telling them UDL, project-based
Hmm.
learning, inquiry, like questioning and hands-on. Like teachers just don't necessarily have the time, the resources, the capability to actually see some of that through, especially with a lot of the demands that we put on them. Like, here's these 80 standards that you have to teach in third grade math, or you have to teach ELA for 3 hours now. Like, that's just, that's not getting kids excited about school and
Yeah,
teachers either.
boy, and that brings me to a question. I'm going to hold on that because Jacob, I want to know, man, what new chairman of the boards right there, producer Jacob. Jacob, where are you at in this AI and AI learning and stuff? Because you've heard enough now. You've been with me and Johnny to know that there's a pseudo battle between Johnny acting as some form of a Luddite and me somehow being, ridiculously taken in by the cult of AI. Where's Jacob at on this?
Well, I know that in this Cold War between you and Johnny, I've heard there's a bit more of a detente lately on
Yeah.
AI. For me, I've used AI since it became publicly available, 2, 3, 4 years ago, both for generating images, for getting ideas, for writing things down, putting things into the form of notes. I think AI can be a great tool when it's used properly. I think it can be a great tool, especially when it's in a subject that you know a thing or two about, so you can check it in case it's starting to hallucinate a bit. Bringing AI into the classroom, I think you need to be careful with those hallucinations, but I think we can identify, well, an AI is actually really good at this. An AI is
Mm.
really accurate with this type of answer, and be targeted with the implementation of AI in classrooms. And just when I think about a classroom, let's say a lesson gets finished being taught, normally there's 10 kids who need clarification. If an AI can satisfactorily answer 5 of those 10 kids' questions, then that means the other 5 get a better experience one on one with the teacher getting their questions answered. So I
Mm.
see AI as a great tool for lessening the load on teachers, increasing the amount of attention that students get for their questions, whether the AI answers it really great or now the teacher has more time to answer it.
Brittany, I see you nodding in agreement there.
All of it, Jacob. Like, especially when you talk about hallucinations, especially when you talk about like, AI is trained off human behavior and human data. There's still hallucinate. There's bias, and there's misinformation. So I think now more than ever, and that was really evident in a lot of conversations at GSV ASU Summit, was that really at the forefront of all of this is the importance of AI literacy, and not just here's this AI tool, or like so many kids are using Snapchat, like the little AI guy in their Snapchat account. But like, how can we really ensure students have those skills surrounding AI literacy to use it in a way for meaning and for their own benefit? But I love everything you said, and that's what we're feeling in schools is just simply by making some of these like first early adopter switches
Mm.
with using some of that AI as that platform or that teaching platform, our teachers are more rejuvenated, we have veteran teachers saying, I love coming to work. Like, I was on the verge of retirement. Like, we have teachers like this is renewing my strength and making me smile, and that's exactly what we need and what we want. And same from the kids. Like, kids love feeling success
Mm.
and also receiving feedback. Like, kids crave feedback, like, Tim, are you gonna grade my test, are you gonna grade
Yeah,
my
yeah,
test?
yeah.
Like, you hear that, but like, we have that capability to give that targeted instantaneous feedback for kids too.
Yeah, you think about that. It's just again, and Jacob, yeah, feeling the way you laid that out there, nailing it. I mean, what a great example. The end of the lesson, there are probably 10 kids who still have some questions. And that was the reality for any teacher teaching a lesson. And, the sad reality of those 10 students is that the teacher then couldn't really get to all of their needs, just because you can't, right? And great teachers do their best. But now AI, has the potential to reach, and Jacob, you put it was great. Five of those 10 can jump on with AI and get what it was that they're not understanding, what they're missing. And now all of a sudden, the teacher can really do that individualized deep instruction for those other students that need to really have that interaction with the teacher. And Brittany, the way you were framing that too, and you talked a lot about that on the last time you were on the show about the rejuvenation aspect that it does for teachers, because now they're not feeling overwhelmed and overloaded. They're feeling inspired and empowered by the ability to do the deep types of educational inquiries and support. Hey, it's Busted Pencils. It's fully leaded education talk. We're going to have more with Britni Walz when we get back. I know you're out there dancing because that's what we do on Busted Pencils every Saturday. Jacob, thank you for that music. Hey, it's Dr. Tim Slegger, and yeah, it's Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk, educated educators talking education, talking AI education, talking rural Wisconsin AI education. In fact, innovator, one of your own there in Wisconsin, Britni Walz from CISA 4. She was at that ASU GSV summit presenting what's going on in Wisconsin, particularly in the rural areas. Brittany, one of the themes, though, that at the conference is this issue, though, of AI and equity. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about, how you see this issue of AI equity, specifically you, and then like what are the issues dealing with equity in rural schools and AI? Just, you know, help me figure this out.
Yeah, I think that that word equity can mean so many different things, right? And so it was really evident, just while we were out there. I think conversations, not only higher education, like the universities who are having professors use it and encouraging students to use it, and then there are still those that are locking it down and saying academic integrity and misuse, right? So the word equity is really just that, like, new digital divide. Like, who has access to using AI and who doesn't, and who's learning about it? I always tell educators, like, are we allowing students to learn about it and with AI? So, like, that tandem parallel for AI integration into schools. And I think that was evident, especially with the work we do with rural schools. We oftentimes joke like they don't oftentimes get a lot of like the technology, or they
Right.
don't get a lot of like the support. They might not even have a tech director to help implement this stuff. So, but we feel, especially my colleagues in our liftoffs work with CISA 4, is we really feel like the rural districts are prime for some of this innovation. There's less red tape, there's less committees and meetings, and we have to check this box before we check that box. It's more, boots on the ground. Let's do this. Like, we know this is best practice. We know that this is helping kids. So I think that rural education is prime for some of this truly transformative education. And we saw that at GSV ASU. It was very clear, and made very evident that for the first time, public education has competition. We know a
Mm,
lot about school choice and ESAs, which are educational savings accounts that are popping up in schools or in states. So I think that was made very evident, that for the first time, we have more choice in education. And rural education is the lifeblood of so many of our Wisconsin communities.
right.
So that's really where we're primed and ready to take this over, and to storm true innovation and structural change for schools.
Well, and you pointed out, I think, what people think rural, okay, behind the times, right? You guys are probably still using white chalk and black boards. Um, you know, maybe you guys have a landline, telephone, but uh, and yeah, I know that's over the top. But the fact though that you're actually saying, no, like we have access to this, where we're at in rural Wisconsin. Um, I can also hear somebody saying, okay, and I heard you guys mention Conmigo, Khan Academy. Are you guys saying then that rural schools, the only way they can have access is by creating these kind of quasi commercial partnerships? And, can you hear somebody out there saying, wait a minute, our schools shouldn't need to partner with multi-billion dollar, hedge fund managers, tech companies. Wait a minute, this is bad news. I know what Brittany's talking about is great education, but darn it, those commercial interests are going to take over and do bad things to our kids. Brittany.
I mean, I can hear that. You
Okay.
can hear that rhetoric. I always tell everyone it is not about the platform. We use Khan Academy, which has Conmigo, like their AI tutor bot. We use eSpark, which has their own. I met with an ed tech company this morning about theirs. Like, we are really truly not saying it's about the platform, because you can build your own platform. You can build your own AI tutor bots. Like, you can do all that stuff. Sometimes it's that capability, and like I think you mentioned before, Jacob, and I think Tim, there's a lot of like training that goes into it, really making sure the teachers have AI literacy. So I don't necessarily think it's partnering with the big conglomerates or the hedge funds or whatever it is. But at the same token, to see all of these hedge funds and the Walton Foundation and just Google and OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, all presenting out at the GSV summit, it was very clear that they want to partner. And every time I said rural Wisconsin or rural education, they were like, boom, beeline to us. Like, they personally are the same way. Like, yep, we totally believe in this. Like, this is how we're truly going to transform education, and it starts sometimes in those small rural communities. And I think, like, there's a statistic that just popped up that says 65% of the jobs our elementary students will have don't
Mm,
exist.
right.
So, and in Spotify, I don't know if you saw the CEO. He just released the memo saying no longer will they be hiring humans, and from here on out, humans have to like almost justify why they are like needed in this company versus an AI. So, hearing
That's
from some of
frightening.
these, I know, but like hearing from some of these tech conglomerates or these big hedge funds, sometimes they are at the forefront of this education, these technologies. And I think partnering only makes the ability to figure out how to implement that much stronger.
Well, yeah, and you know what? Let's go back to that. The 65% of the kids in elementary school, the jobs that exist now won't be the jobs you were saying, right? For them, did I get that right?
65% of the jobs that
Of
they
the
will hold don't
don't
exist
exist
anymore.
any, yeah, they won't. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, you could fight that and be upset that that statistic is out there. You may even want to, wrestle with it and even say that's nonsense. It's never gonna. Well, you know what? Okay, so maybe it's 50, maybe it's 40, whatever it is. The reality is that guess what? AI and jobs, it's happening. It's already happening. Brittany, your example right away to Spotify, and as I said, it's frightening that they're quote not going to hire humans. I can hear people out there going, "See, I told you this is the end." Um, and we need to be thinking about that and worried about that and having discussions about ethical AI for sure. But we can't put our head in the sand, our heads in the sand. Those of us in education, and act as if we shouldn't be providing students and communities and families the opportunities to become at least AI literate, because the reality is that it's going to be part of just having a job, and in fact, I put this quote out there. I'm pretty sure it's from Scott Galloway from the Prof G podcast and Pivot. I really like him, but he made the point. It's like AI is not going to take your job, although maybe Spotify is going to push on that. But somebody who knows how to use AI will take your job. Brittany.
Yeah, no, that's what we keep really pushing to. And I think the other thing that is so you like not I wouldn't say unique, but one of the things that we truly stress with this lift with our liftoffs approach, again, it's not about the platform. It's about empowering the educators to think about what are those future ready skills. Because you know, 15, 20 years ago, we heard 21st century learners and 21st centuries. We're a quarter of the way through. Like, stop using 21st century skills and start to really call out what are the future skills. And I think that was evident. I think I was blown away. One of the things I noticed, and I talked to my colleagues, because I was able to bring two superintendents, my boss and a coworker out with me to the summit and the show. And we were looking through all of the sessions, and one thing that really struck a chord was, yes, it was all about AI, but more than ever, it was about human centric skills. And like, what are the future skills that kids are going to need to be able to chart their own future and path in a world that we don't know what it looks like.
Mm,
And so, like you said, AI literacy, which was a huge one, but a lot of what we were in discussions with was, if we can use the AI platform to provide some of those, you know, tier one, like some of the
mm,
drill kills, math, science, social studies, ELA kind of stuff, how can the teacher be freed up to bring in more collaboration, critical thinking,
mm.
problem solving, goal setting with self-awareness? And so we really look at that as like, what are social emotional skills that kids need to navigate in the future workplace? And that's really at the heart of everything we're doing.
Yeah, I think about that, and maybe a little bit of a off of that side though is ethics, right? Ethical, like when do we use AI and when should we, because we can, should we use AI in these situations, right? I mean, and I'm looking at this now back to my, the future of higher education. Is that, people are like, well, what's going to be the role of the humanities? And it's like, actually, if you think about this seriously, there is more need for those deep critical thinking, philosophical, ethical ways to get at answers to questions that is more important now than ever. And so, Brittany, last 3 minutes here before we have you, I see you nodding on that. Just give you an opportunity though, too. So, what do you think you're gonna bring back, or have you brought back to CISA 4 in rural Wisconsin? And where do you think you might be going?
Yeah, I think that's a very that's a big question. Wow.
I know. It's
I mean, it was like a whirlwind. I think we looked at each other, like even, I was like I said, I was able to bring two superintendents from Whitehall and Aleva Strum, so two of my rural school districts. And I think we all looked at each other and we were like, whoa, like we are over, like this is a lot to take in.
Mhm.
I really think it's just continuing our work forward, pushing it forwards, really wrapping around AI literacy, even for our youngest learners. And then how can we really strengthen some of those future ready skills within our students and make a meaningful educational experience for kids. And I think that's the big one, right? If we can give our teachers the superpower of AI, how can our teachers now be poised more than ever to re-innovate education? Because there's nothing more that I hate hearing is that education is broken or
Mhm.
education, like that rhetoric. I push back on that rhetoric and say it is just outdated and we need to re-innovate ourselves. And that's truly what I'm bringing back is this renewed faith that we are on the right track and we're doing what we need, especially for the most critical communities that are really the lifeblood of our economy here in Wisconsin.
Wow. Think about that. Yeah, in the CISA 4 area, that's what's going on, man. Rural education, AI education, return guests, Brittany Walz. Brittany, man, I tell you what, we are just going to want to continue to check in with you. Talk about those superintendents too. Hey, if love to hear from them, man.
Mhm.
Hear what's going on, like how they make sense of this. Hey, and if you're out there, particularly in the CISA 4 area, man, check out what they're doing. Give them some support. They love it. Brittany Walsh, thanks for busting pencils.
Thank you guys.
Hey, guess what? Jacob and Tim are going to break it down when we get back. Yeah, you hear that music, you're like, wait, they're already at the end? Yeah. It's Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk. Educated educators. You know what we're doing. We're talking education. Great guest. CISA 4, Wisconsin's own Brittany Walsh returning back, talking about the Global Silicon Valley Summit with Arizona State University. It's the big, most awesome conference where ed, tech, technology, all these people get together and kind of tell us what it was. Brittany was nominated as an innovator in education. She got that and she was there and invited to be there and talking about the work they're doing in rural Wisconsin. So, Jacob, you got to listen to this conversation. Even kind of gave a sense of your AI, though. What did you know? You're a younger dude.
I am, yes, Tim.
I mean, is it if you were imagining, being a student, but would you have liked to have had AI as something to engage in when you were in high school and middle school?
I would have loved, Tim. I would have absolutely loved to have an AI in middle school and high school because I would have used it to
Mm.
cheat. That would have been amazing because the amount of ways that you can use an AI to help Know things that you do not actually
Uh,
know. I approve of that, and I would have done that absolutely.
Oh, so you just pointed out the issue of ethics and policy right in that statement right there. Because I'll go back to this. I said, Jacob, I mean, that is kind of like the big well, if we just let AI in, they're just going to use it to cheat, and kids are going to get lazy, and those who don't know anything are now going to give the appearance that they know stuff, and maybe even more horrible is that they're going to believe that because they have AI, they know things they don't really know. Is that what
Hmm.
you're talking about,
Yeah,
Jacob?
I think that's a danger of it. Obviously, like you're saying, um, to quote Donald Rumsfeld, there's a lot of unknown unknowns involved with AI, and that could be a problem. But I think one of the things that was raised here is the issue of not just saying get rid of AI because kids are going to use it to cheat. And part of the reason I would not like that to be the stance that people take on it is because for me, I was in college when the pandemic happened, and I
Mm,
noticed a change in how college worked, which was that everything moved online. And from that moment forward, cheating was very easy, Tim.
yeah.
You can look anything up. Hey, we're going to put a thing on your browser so we
Yeah.
see what you're doing. Well, guess what? I own a mini computer, Tim, that I also have that isn't being monitored. So the issue of cheating at large or shortcuts or whatever you want to do it is so much more pervasive than an AI tool that's just cutting off one particular piece of the education puzzle to try to deal with a larger problem. I think that we need to reorient how we do things, have a different approach to education with the knowledge that we can't teach kids like it's 1955 because they now have supercomputers in their pockets. So I don't know if math has changed. Did math change with the calculator? How we ended up teaching mathematics to kids? We don't use the abacus anymore for the fifth graders. So I think there needs to be a much larger structural reform and not just shut out new tools.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for bringing back the abacus because, no, and Johnny has talked about that because he's a math teacher, and the calculator it's a tool. And I actually, on the calculator one, we've kind of wrestled on that, and I see AI as a little bit different than a tool. But back to cheating, um, I was talking about with Britni higher education, and there's a great piece out in the Chronicle of Higher Education. Are you ready for the AI University? Author Scott Latham, and just in case he's out there listening, we invited him. Jacob, I sent him an email inviting him to come on the show to talk about this. But I want to read from his just a quote here. Higher education colleges have chiefly responded to the initial stirrings of this revolution by getting mired in a tired debate about academic ethics. Students cheated before the advent of AI, and they will continue to cheat for years to come. Even if a new app could detect and prevent all A enabled student work, it would be inconsequential to AI's inevitable spread throughout colleges and higher education. If your interest in AI doesn't extend beyond cheating, you're missing the bigger picture. I
I would absolutely agree, Tim. That gets at right at what I was saying. I mean, cheating is pervasive now, and to throw away AI as a tool just focuses on one narrow aspect of it.
Yeah, you put that out there, and I think people are missing, and even missing. I think the argument about cheating actually is really at this point, it's an old argument made by people who are just doing everything they possibly can to stall as if they're going to stop this. Hey, there's so much going on, AI in education, but Jacob, you know what now is?
Well, I
Now.
don't know, Tim.
It's time for your moment of zen. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now as we think human beings should live in defiance of all that is bad around us, it itself is a marvelous victory. Thanks everybody for listening to Busted Pencils on Saturday. Hey, make sure though, you got to come around on Monday. Homeroom, it's out there. Wednesday, classes in session. Friday, hurdles and home runs and hurdles, and then back again Saturday. We love it. Check out everything on Civic Media app. Make sure that you're out there downloading, listening to the shows, giving us reviews. We love it. And as Johnny points out, keep listening to Tim and Johnny, your blue collar scholars, and keep busting pencils.